Hello and welcome to episode 142 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris. And in this episode, I'm joined by a guest, Justin Toscano, not Jordan Tyson. It says JT on his screen. Slightly less athletic than Jordan Tyson. Justin Toscano is on the show. And Justin, we have a great show planned. We're just going to talk about, just going to preview ASU men's basketball this whole show. What do you say?
I guess if it's gonna be that, I've got to go take a look at the roster. You pulled a fast one on me.
Yeah. I thought of that last night and I was like, oh, that'll be fun. Because I'm like, dude, I am not like, I'll talk about ASU basketball when it's like right before tip off. Like,
Yeah, I'm not. I'll say like I'm excited for the season, like I'm excited for any ASU season, but I can't claim any knowledge to be completely honest with you. Not enough to talk about in preview.
I am not excited for the season. I will say, like, I think one of these like international guys that they'll bring in probably will like a few. I bet like probably two of them will be a lot better than we think. But you know what? That's a different discussion. Yeah, we're talking about ASU football. ASU football got absolutely destroyed in Utah, 42-10. Um, it was a weird series of events that led up to that game. Obviously, we found out like Wednesday or Thursday of last week that Sam Levitt was doubtful to play, which caused a quick chain reaction of extreme panic all over Sun Devil social media. And it turns out that was extremely warranted because they went and got destroyed at Utah 42-10. Before we dive into it more, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, follow the College Huddle Podcast Network. Lots of good fan led shows there. So, I mean, look, I'll just be honest in this for everyone who's listening. Like, I did not watch a second of the Utah game. I would have but I was in the wet. Oh, Jesus, I was in the East Coast in Washington D.C. for a wedding. The game kicked off at 10:15 local time in the East Coast, which boy, like now I understand why the Pac-12 died because you have all these like when you're putting like these marquee games, and I'm not putting ASU and Utah in that bin, but like, whew, man, like it's late, like and like if you're already had a few pops like I did, it's hard to pay attention, and then once I kind of I deliberately didn't look at the score, and I got a text from you that it was like effing unbelievable or something. I'm like, well, I'm gonna put my phone away because prior to that, the last time I checked, it was 7-3 Utah, and I was like, oh, okay, like we're kind of whatever. This is the normal game flow to a game, and then yeah, then that was about as close as it was for the rest of it. So I don't have any like detailed insights other than kind of things that everyone else has said. The score kind of gives it away. So yeah, Justin, what do you? Let's just start out with that game and the Levitt not being there, the defense, everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you don't have any of the gory details, but some of us had to watch the game. So,
You were
and
also on the
and
East Coast.
funny being on the East Coast for like the last 5 years, dude. This is you. You're doing what I do every Saturday, where you're watching. It doesn't start till later, so it doesn't even kick off till like 10:45, and then you're in bed at 3 a.m. or whatever. Anyways, honestly, like I had faith because that's who I am as a fan. Like it just to me, like there's no point in being too realistic with this part of my life. It's like, okay, let's see if Jeff Sims can make it close, whatever. Uh I want to say that it just did not matter that Sam Levitt was out because if maybe it would have been closer, maybe it would have been, I don't know, 20-10 at some point in the game. But I know sometimes you have this feeling when you watch early in the game, and even if you want to have faith, after that first drive, some of the stuff that the way Utah just walked down the field, the way ASU clearly just was not ready for Dampier, uh, really Dampier played like we all thought he probably would play. Like there were no surprises schematically or anything like that. Um, and just the fact that they went down the field so quickly, it was 7-0. You're kind of thinking like, yeah, it might be a long night. Might be a long night. And I think what I told you, Mark, texted you the part I can share that doesn't have any explicit words, um, was Jeff Sims was bad, but I just don't think that it mattered, right? Like it was a tough spot for him in the
Of course.
rain. Clearly look, like let's go through that situation first. If ASU had known that this was going to be the case, Jeff Sims would have ran with the ones all week in practice. And they would
Yes.
have had like a game plan for him. So like let's like give some credit to Jeff Sims and the coaching staff first of all, because like I don't really think like they did not have any time. They had maybe what 48 hours to actually prepare something for him at a night game at Utah in the wind and rain. Like that's a really tough task. So from that perspective, like I want to say there were some throws that just like, yeah, weren't great. Like he didn't give the offense a chance a lot of times. But Kenny Dillingham did make a good point of it was windy, it was rainy, tough to kind of judge a quarterback in those conditions. And I think really, Mark, like more so, if we're going to talk about what happened, I'm really disappointed with the defense. And I think like that's kind of where I landed the other night was that it just didn't seem like the defense, the physicality wasn't really there. I don't really even think I when I was watching the game, it wasn't like ASU was just getting blown off the ball relentlessly. It was almost just like Utah was like allowed to do whatever it was going to do. And I didn't feel like watching it. It wasn't like it was in 2023, right? Where
Okay.
ASU goes there and loses 55-3, got no shot. Like ASU's got dudes too. Like they've got size like at the line of scrimmage, like in the trenches. Like I don't think ASU's completely overmatched in that regard. I just don't think ASU met the physicality of Utah. And I think that's where I was surprised was ASU never really woke up. And it seemed like the defense was just kind of playing in autopilot for most
Yeah.
of the game. And I think like I mean, if we're gonna be completely honest, Mark, like we've watched all the games to this point. ASU's not a team, from what they've shown so far, ASU's not a team that can win when its defense doesn't show up against good opponents. Like I don't think like
Especially
and
the
especially
Sims.
not with Sam without
Yeah.
Sam Levitt. And like that you had we've watched games whether it be look like against NAU, against TCU, against whatever like there have been times all the time when Sam Levitt can just bail these guys out. He runs and avoids a sack and, throws to Jordan, whatever. Like he's incredible. And I just think when you lose that dynamic, like the defense had to hold up a little bit. And it's not even like the defense gave up 30 points over the span of like four. It was a pretty quick 28 to 30 points, right? Like it was like they didn't really give a chance for the offense to kind of hang in there. But then again, like Kenny Dillingham said the plan was to sustain some drives and to like just shorten the game. And I actually thought ASU did that pretty well. Just again, like couldn't finish, like the storyline's been all year. And that becomes even harder when you don't have Sam Levitt. I just felt like these guys were clearly limited.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there. And I want to start with Sims. I think that yeah, like he didn't have much it seemingly, right? We don't totally
Yeah.
know. Seemingly didn't have much time to practice that week.
No.
He didn't turn the ball over. He and I did see a clip that like he threw a pretty good deep ball to McLean that
It, it,
probably should be caught, you
It
know?
was a it was a perfect ball. I should have
Yeah.
mentioned that. That was one of those that it was we've talked about like you and I, Sam Levitt missing a couple throws here or there early in games, like the Mississippi State game. Like
Well,
that's a different game. Malik McLean, like when you've got a backup quarterback, you've got to hang on to that. It's not
yeah,
easy in the wind and rain, but it's like, yeah, he had a couple throws, that one specifically, that were just perfect.
yeah, exactly. So I think there is some bad luck in the sense that like if if Malik, or I'm sorry, if Jeff Sims had to be the quarterback, you don't want it to be at Utah.
Right.
You want it to be when ASU is like hosting West Virginia or the Texas State game, or maybe even Houston. Maybe. I don't know. But like, and we kind of saw it last year when they played at Cincinnati. Like Jeff Sims wasn't horrible at Cincinnati. He wasn't great, but like when you have the worst play of ASU play of Scadaboo's career was he fumbled like way
Yeah.
deep in ASU's own territory in that Cincinnati game, and that just kind of like messed up the game script. And then you had the two missed kicks later on, but like Jeff Sims didn't like completely fall over himself in that game, and I don't. It doesn't seem like he really was like seeing on social media, like people, it was all just about the defense. And you know what? It deserves to be all about the defense
Totally.
because you can say that like Sam Levitt has kept the defense in games, but like it's also been the other way around. I mean,
Yeah.
like the Baylor game, like I think we're gonna look back at the end of the year and see like, oh, we held Baylor to 24 points. Like that's gonna age well. The TCU game, I think holding them to 24 and sacking them 6 times, right? Like that's going to look good. I mean, even the Mississippi State game, like they had one horrible play at the end that was more of a coaching decision, really, than it was like. I mean, there were some execution issues, obviously, but like it was more of just like don't call that specific blitz. Uh, I don't want
Yeah.
honestly, the Mississippi State game's worse than the Utah loss with some time to reflect, in my opinion, just because you're losing to a worse team. But who cares? They all count the same, right? Um,
Yeah. And this one, look,
uh,
this one's in conference. So you've only got one in conference. Like
right.
you're kind of fine. And the thing is, like, not to cut you off, sorry, but we I don't like thinking like this, but if you want to be realistic about it, like if we looked at the schedule before the year, we all knew that Utah game at Utah, and then when you see that
Oh
it's going to be
yeah.
a night game, like that's like a tough draw, right? This team hasn't they didn't lose to West Virginia at home, right? Like they don't have that type of loss yet, so like I think that's the positive.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that makes the Utah game worse is a few. One, like anytime you get blown out like that, it's terrible, and especially if you're a good team, which I think ASU was good, but how good, right? Like we'll find out as the season goes along, but they're on thin ice. Let me put it that way. Like, and then the other thing is like when you saw that Utah game, you're like, okay, that's gonna. And Utah's been about what we thought they were going to be this year.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that Texas Tech was going to be significantly better, like significantly better than we thought. And so that completely changed. I think that's why the fan base has been so like panicked and angry and upset and all these negative emotions is because oh crap, we just got destroyed by Utah. And now we have this Texas Tech team coming in who has looked incredible and their defenses looked incredible. And oh, by the way, this same Texas Tech team blew out Utah. Now, again, transitive property, it's, but that's all the info we have right now. And Sam Levitt isn't fully healthy. So when you add all of that up and and it's not like the 4-1 start. Well, like it's great. It was great to get to 4-1. And I've tweeted about that on the account. It wasn't like, it was a rocky road to get to 4-1. It wasn't like it wasn't like you look great doing it. And so all of these things, like that's all you add it all up, and that's why it's like there's so much angst and so much like, oh my gosh, like is this season slipping away? All these like huge big picture things that come up. But again, like yeah, like to just zero back in on that game, like the defense can't be that bad, and it wasn't that bad in any of the previous 5 games. In
Right.
any of the previous 5 games, it was not that bad. The most they'd given up is 24 points, all to, you know, uh, Power Four teams, right? And they did it. Their defense did a great job against a Texas State team too, like that's got some good offense too. So like that's the thing that like, and I guess the thing coming out of this game is like, was this a one-off or was it a trend? Because it could like we don't know, and we'll see how like I think that the worry is like you have this Texas Tech team coming in that could make it be a trend. You know That's the thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and you have some injuries. Although I'll get into that later on. I don't know exactly. Like some of these injuries are more impactful than others, but they add up nonetheless. So I don't know. I guess the issue is like I think I one more point is like as ASU fans, we haven't seen a loss like this. And what I mean in terms of like I feel like since 2021, in terms
Yeah.
of you're actually a good like this ASU team has proven like they're a good team. Like I, at worst, I feel like the worst case scenario at this point in time, barring mass injuries, right? That's always a caveat. Like would be 7-5, worst case scenario. And I think the most likely scenario is unfortunately 8-4. And to me, 8-4, unless you get some weird like Big 12 tiebreaker stuff and you back into that game, 8-4 is not good enough for this season. I'm sorry. Like I just because if you go nine, let's say you get blown out by Texas Tech, but you win out and you go 9-3. It wouldn't be like the most satisfying season, but you could say, okay, we lost to the best teams that were better than us. Um, Texas Tech just spent $30 million on its roster in kind of a one-time, one-off situation, right? Like I don't know if it's going to be they'll be able to do that in the future. You play at Utah is going to be extremely difficult anyway, and then you play with a backup on a torrential rainstorm, and then you lose one tough game that maybe you shouldn't lose. Then you can look and it's like, okay, if you go 9-3, you'll finish ranked. You'll have a chance to win 10 games,
Sure.
and the season will feel better even if you don't like meaningfully compete for the Big 12. But I don't know. That feels like a lot to ask. That feels like you're really like threading the needle, And I don't know. That's kind of that's these are kind of the things that get brought up when you get blown out the way they did.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I really, really like this team, and I always have. But I thought that a lot of people in the offseason, like I get we're all fans, but I thought that like a lot of the 11-1 predictions were like we
Yeah,
have a tough schedule, man. And like it's only become tougher as we've seen how the season has unfolded, right? Like I
Houston's
don't
better than
know
we expect. U of A is
exactly. And I
better
don't
than we thought.
yeah, and so like which other Big 12 team has a stretch like this to start play? Baylor, TCU, Utah, Texas Tech,
Yeah.
Houston, like
I mean,
Iowa State.
yeah,
Like I when Iowa State suddenly looks like one of the easier teams in that stretch, like it's
yeah.
a pretty tough schedule. And I think that's where we need to keep it in perspective of like, yeah, there's been some bad injury luck. Um, I want to shout out Jeff Sims real quick because I think it's super cool that in this era he stayed. Like when he could have gone like
Yeah.
elsewhere to a smaller school and started, like dude, he stayed. Like he loves it there. He's a true Sun Devil. Like he should be. We should give kudos for that. And like you said, yeah, it's like he didn't play. I don't think he played poorly. Like I don't think he was good, but it was just like it didn't really like matter. And I think when you look at big picture items that come after that loss. Yeah, one of them is honestly when you looked at that stretch and how good Texas Tech is,
Yeah.
you kind of felt like you almost needed to win the Utah game because like I'm not saying Texas Tech will be a loss. I think they find a way to keep it close and maybe win that at home. But the schedule is just so tough that like you need I don't know, like we're kind of it's tough to forecast. But here's what I'll say. When they lost to Cincinnati last year, like that's the point in the season where I was like, okay, like let's just get 8 wins. And like I don't you
Yeah.
mean you never think like that, but like that was the point in the season where I was just like, okay, you know what? Like if we win 8 games, like that's fine. Like this team, like it's not, maybe they don't have the personnel yet, or maybe the depth isn't there yet. Like like just give this thing time. I like the one thing I will say about this team I like the psyche. Like I really like the psyche. And what I mean by that is like I'm not in the room every day, so like who I don't like
Right.
everything I say and see is speculation, but I was at the Mississippi State game when everything went wrong for a half. Every first down you had was called back. It was all bad. The second half, like they came out like they had just flipped a switch. And obviously you want that to happen the entire game, but what I'm saying is you kind of tell a lot about a team by how they respond to adversity.
Yeah.
And they should have won that game. Like, and they literally like I was in the stands when Mississippi State fans, like ASU starts at its own 2 yard line and literally just runs the ball all the way down the field. Like doesn't throw no vertical, like literally just runs the ball all the way down the field, imposes its will. I think like you in those tougher times, you see what makes a team. And I think the more interesting part of the big picture discussion is when you have college athletes, it's so hard to sustain success. Like that's why I think like, obviously the Saban teams from those years had all these great players and Urban Meyer teams at Ohio State, all this, but it's like
Well, even the
you're
Urban Meyer
still
teams at Ohio State would underachieve to their level of talent, save for 1 year.
totally. And
They
it's
always,
it's the
even the year they won
hardest.
a Natty, they had a dumb loss. Like all every, it felt like every single year he had one dumb loss, and
Yeah.
it
And
probably cost Ohio State like 2 natties. Like,
yeah, and honestly,
like,
like that's the
and sure,
toughest
sure,
thing I feel
Saban, like,
like.
but that's whatever. Like, that's a whole different can of worms. Like, like,
Yeah, and it's like, but the point being,
yeah,
I think the hardest thing in college sports is to do it a second time. Because last year when ASU got hot toward the end, it felt like they were playing with lightning in a bottle, like especially when they went to K-State and they jumped all
yeah,
over K-State. Like it kind of felt like people weren't ready for ASU. Like they were like, okay, we've seen them on film. But in person, it's a lot more physical. It's a lot faster. Like the Scatterboo is tough to stop. Like
yeah,
they can really get on you quick. I think it's harder when the target's on your back. And I think it's harder when the target's on your back to have that same sort of hunger and edge. And like in 21, that was a really talented team that I felt like had no edge. Like I felt like they just like didn't really there wasn't really that hunger and desire
yeah.
because I just didn't feel like the coaching staff instilled it well enough.
Well, and there was so
I
much
don't think that's
drama too.
yeah, and I don't think that's the case here. And what I mean by that is I think this team's shown when Kenny lights into them, whether you see like second half at Baylor or you see like that second half against TCU or you see shoot, how they played against a good Texas State team. Like that's a good team.
Yeah,
Like the way they've responded to these things makes me believe that we will not see another slow first half on Saturday against Texas Tech. And that's what I think I'm most encouraged by is I don't look at this team and think I know like there've been a lot of fans on social media, like we've both seen it. Like people think like, oh, the common line is what? Oh, we just bought into the hype and we're like, now we think we're as good as everybody thought we were and we're not good. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's just really hard to keep that edge up. And especially like, look, like Kenny's been honest about like what he said this week about, oh, I probably took it too soft on a veteran group and we need to have more tackling and more physicality. Like I think that's stuff that probably happens at a lot of programs. You're just
oh
not
yeah,
seeing the head coach say it in the media. And that's what I appreciate about Kenny is like just the brutal, extreme honesty of like what happens. And so as we look at this stretch, if you can find a way to beat Texas Tech or even like keep it really close and have like a great game, I like the chances of this season because I don't think this is the type of team that's going to spiral. I think I really have liked what I've seen in tougher moments from them, and when tough things happen.
yeah. I agree with your resilience point, and we really did see that against Texas State. The Texas, I always want to call them something else, but against Texas State in Week 3. And I agree with your overall point. Like, I don't think this is gonna, no matter, like, regardless of what happens on Saturday. And let's be honest, like, they will more than likely lose that game.
They're going to
Whatever
win that game.
in terms of whatever. Like, okay, well, in my opinion, they will more than likely lose that game.
They're going
But
to win by 2 scores. You heard it here first. No, they're not going to win by 2 scores, but you heard it here first. They're going to win that game.
okay, all right. But my point would be like, even if they are resilient, that's still like you still have 5 games left and you would have to go unbeaten down the stretch. That's kind of the
Yeah.
issue. It's like, sure, like you can feel better and all this, but like you still have to win 5 games in a row against, against 4 teams that are like capable of beating you, because I don't think West Virginia at Tempe is capable of winning that game, but all the other 4 games are possible losses. So
Yeah,
that's
certainly.
where it's like, that can only account for so much. Um, and yeah, I guess the one thing is like the fact that Texas Tech is this good, like it just throws a wrench into the like how we like judge this team. Cause I mean, I'll say this, like it sucks going into a game where there is a real on paper possibility that ASU gets blown out. Like that's not fun. And I don't really think that exists past this game,
No.
but it does exist for this game. And I think it's just something that we like. I think that's really what's made. Like, let's just say the schedule was flipped around. Let's say we were hosting Houston this week, and then we had Texas Tech the week after in Tempe. I don't think there would be quite as much like wailing and mashing of teeth and like because people would just be
Right.
like, okay, let's get back on track. Like we can beat Houston. They're a good they're like 5-1 or 4-1 soft schedule, but hey, you know what? The wins all count. Like I don't think people would be freaking out as much. But it's just the possibility of getting blown out 2 times in 2 weeks, like for what is a good team, like that is discomforting. And that's to me, like as a fan, like I guess we view fandom differently because like I'm just preparing myself for that. And I don't necessarily think that's gonna happen, but I'm preparing myself for it. And
Yeah.
like especially when we haven't talked about this too much, and this has been a huge topic of debate, or really not even much debate on social media, is special teams has been a shit show.
Bad.
And
Bad.
I don't know. It wouldn't have changed the outcome of last week's game. I saw it. I saw they had a blocked kick and then just bad punts. And I don't know, man. Like I understand the defensive wrangle and like, oh well, he's not actually the one punting the ball and he's not the one kicking the ball. But like, if the special teams is this bad, like what that like it has to fall on someone.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a larger point that kind of concerns me with this team, but last year, like the special teams, the execution has been very poor, and that's with a kicker who's really good and like a
Yeah.
lot better than what ASU had last year. The thing I think you're kind of getting at with special teams that I think is what I'd be most concerned with is I think this is a really good team that fights really hard, that is resilient, that truly cares about the person next to them, all that stuff. But a year ago, we saw ASU pull out some of these games, and we saw like versus UCF specifically, like those like defensive and special teams touchdowns, like different things. Does this team, this current team, do they do enough on the margins to beat a team like Texas Tech? Like that's what I'm concerned about is like to beat a team like Texas Tech, like you have to do the little things well too.
Yeah.
And like those little things, like this special team stuff, like that might not beat you against Texas State. Like they played well in that game, but I'm just using an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
That might not beat you against some of those teams, but like I'm not going to say never, but you can't be down 17-0 to Texas Tech like you were to TCU, especially because TCU is missing its best running back and receiver.
You
And
probably
like
shouldn't have
that,
been. You probably like that strategy should apply to TCU as well. It just worked out that we were able to
totally.
get back in it.
And
But yeah,
so
you're
that's what
right.
I'm concerned about is I still need to see like by the time, let's say last year, this Texas Tech game wasn't comparable to any last year. But let me just give an example of when ASU went to Kansas State and a night game in Manhattan, and you're thinking, okay, like probably gonna be a pretty tough one. Like this
Yeah,
ASU run's been really good, but this is gonna be a tough game. But like we saw in those stretches that ASU really like people. You can say all you want about one score games and how those could have been flipped, but like when you're winning one score games, you're doing little things well. And I think this ASU team has shown that in spots, but
Yeah.
you can't have miscues. Like I'll just put it out there. Like you can't punt the ball away 22 yards to a team like Texas Tech. That's as good on the line of scrimmage as like because you're just going to be asking too much of your defense. Or you're just going to be asking too much of
Yeah.
everybody else. You need to do the little things well, and I think that's what concerns me the most. Is I think ASU has the talent to make this a great game, especially fingers crossed if Sam Levitt plays, as all indications are right now. But are they going to do the things on the margins well enough? Because I think that's where it matters in big games.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I mean, the punting is terrible. It's terrible. And the fact that like our backup punter being out is like, I mean, I'm sorry, our backup punter having to play and our starting punter being out is like such a lightning rod for discussion. It's like, how can you like? I'm sorry, like I've seen so many college punting. It doesn't. It shouldn't be this bad. Like there are so many people who can punt, and I don't know, man. Like
I
I guess one
you
thing, like
sh-
I
yeah, you shouldn't
like
be you shouldn't be having to like when we go on social media and Hode Rubino, Chris Cartman, like everybody reporting on the game, like you're looking at tweets, like you should really never see tweets of like punts of like 25 yards and like
no.
25 like that's honestly like that's what. And I don't
It's high
know because I
school.
don't I don't work in the industry, so it's like I'm just saying from a fan perspective
Yeah.
is sometimes I wonder like with some of the issues they've had like punting, um sometimes you're like, yeah, I kind of have the same question as you do of like how do you find college punters that can't punt? Like you like how like that seems like a tougher task than finding somebody who could punt like
Right.
decently well, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you and you kind of like I'm so shocked how bad some of the punts are sometimes that and because I know it's not easy. Like I couldn't step out there and boom 150 yards, but it's like I I think I think sometimes it's like I can understand the kick like last year the kicking situation in college you have to find your guy that's a good kicker and like that's not an easy thing to do to find a guy who can reliably make them over 40 yards like they've done a fantastic job finding and then getting Jesus Gomez to come here out of the portal but punting, you're kind of like, can't we just like find somebody who can like put it like 35 yards downfield without incident?
Yeah.
Like, does it have to be like, and I think like that's the part that worries you, Mark, because honestly, like, I mean, when are they going to be backed up on their own 20 even? And Texas Tech gets a start at the 45 or like I don't know like it's that's a scary thought and I think like
Yeah.
when you don't do the little things well you expose yourself to
Yes.
get beat in ways that makes your talent not really matter as much.
Totally. Totally. I totally agree. Yeah. So, yeah, I am. Well, I'll say this one before we kind of talk about the Texas Tech game a little bit more detail. Like, I do think that ASU, the fact that they got embarrassed, and they did get embarrassed at Utah. There's no way around it. They got embarrassed. Like, I think that it could help them in this game. Like, especially this whole week of practice. We've seen reports that they've been more physical at tackling, live tackling in practice, which that's a risk. That is a risk, especially when you're getting more like I know the old school fans would be like, oh, they should always live tackle all this. Like, look, man, you have to. It's a
Yeah.
grind. Like you can't just. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like you can't just go full blow at practice every single time. But I get why they're doing it this week, um, and I think they should. I do want to look at the injury report for this game or the likely injury report, whatever it is. This is going to be from Chris Cartman's Twitter account. You can find
Who's the sponsor? Is this presented by like Welcome Diner or something like that?
presented by
Downtown
nobody.
stat Taco Cello.
Yeah. So thank you to Cartman. I mean, they're a lot, anyone but Mackenzie. That's brutal. Uh, so
Yeah, that's
a
bad.
few guys have been confirmed that they will not play. We know Xavier Alfred is out.
Yeah.
But then you add on Cyrus Fiaseo, Ben Coleman, which is brutal, and then Kyson Brown is also out. And the rest of these guys, Swanson would be great to have. The rest of these guys are out for the year. Albert Smith would be great to have him back, or they're just like less important players at this point. I do think it's interesting to look at some of the outs for Texas Tech.
Yeah,
Skylar Gill-Howard is a good defensive tackle. That I think it's good that ASU plays them without him. I hate to talk about injuries, but for ASU's sake, they should hope that Romello Height also doesn't play because he's really good.
he's a game wrecker.
He's really good. So if ASU could potentially go into this game with Texas Tech being without Height and they're already without Gill-Howard, that's a little bit beneficial for ASU. And then you look at number 2 quarterback Baron Morton for Texas Tech. He's questionable. I haven't watched every Texas Tech snap. I haven't watched every game, but I'll tell you this much: their backup quarterback Hammond, he scares me a lot more than Baron Morton, especially since he has the mobility. And I hope that Baron Morton plays in this game. And look, Baron Morton can go out and have a good game and tear us up. That could totally happen. But I think I would prefer to face him, especially since he won't be at 100% versus Hammond. So what are your thoughts on this injury report? Because it looks a lot scarier for ASU than it actually is, I would say, save for the loss of Ben Coleman. Losing Coleman sucks. And he was such a big part of last season.
Yeah, that one hurts too from a fan perspective of you can tell it's just such a joy to listen to him when they do interviews or
he's great.
he just seems like a really, really good dude. And he's a guy you want around and obviously a leader. But when I look at this, my first thought with these injury reports, Mark, is they always look scary for ASU because I think ASU is a lot more transparent than a lot of schools too. I think they'll list a ton of guys probable, for example.
Right.
Because and they'll probably list honestly, they'll probably list a ton of guys who aren't that banged up, but they might have a lower threshold for that than other teams. I
Yeah.
think I agree with your Baron Morton point because the one thing I said, I haven't seen a ton of them, but the one thing I think coming into the year was okay, Texas Tech is going to have more talent, but you still need a really good quarterback to reach the pinnacle, to really
Mhm.
maximize your potential as a college team. And
Yeah.
I think, look, if it scared me what Hammond did at Utah. I'm not gonna lie. That was to see that. I remember watching some of that game and then leaving, and then I checked the score a couple hours later, and the fact that it was 33-10 at Utah, I'm like, oh my God. That wasn't they didn't just win that game 13-10 or whatever. He didn't they killed
Yeah.
Utah. And
Yeah.
I think he's a dynamic playmaker in a way that maybe Baron Morton, especially if he's limited, wouldn't be. The thing I immediately when I saw this last night, my eyes immediately went to Romello Height.
Yep.
That was
Same.
the
Same
one
here.
because I just think if there's one guy, there aren't many guys who can neutralize Sam Levitt and his mobility and his speed. Romello Heights a game breaker who just can get in the back. He's part of why Texas Tech is so good. And look,
Yeah.
for as much as people want to talk about how much money they invested, it's a ton. They at least invested it in the right places.
Yeah.
Their
Oh, for
trench play
sure.
is
And
really, really good.
yeah.
And I think he's a huge part of that. And I think he's one of those guys that honestly, Mark, really worries me because are we going to be able to go side to side offensively with as much efficiency with a guy like that on the field?
Yeah.
I don't
Probably
that
not.
makes your game plan a lot tougher. And especially with Sam Levitt extending plays, Sam is so good. And obviously, who knows how much he'll be limited due to his injury.
Right.
He's
Right.
so good, but man, a Romello Height is one of those guys where Sam probably meets his match more than anybody he's seen on TCU. and Baylor. And that's not to say anything about Sam as much as it is to say about the level of competition. It was the same thing when they played Texas in the Peach Bowl, right? Like when you have a good defense and a front seven like that,
With
you can
pros
immediately
everywhere.
tell the
Yeah.
difference. Like they're pros. Yeah. And it's like you can immediately tell the difference. And I think like that's the scariest part to me about this, Mark, is that ASU gets so much offense from improvisation because Sam Levitt is so good at that. And he's such like he's the guy where, yeah, you think you have him in the backfield and opposing fans are probably like, dude, he just got away for like 25 yards, spun out two
Yeah.
linebackers. Like it's it's gonna be harder to have opportunities to move the ball, like if Romello Height and those guys play well and are healthy, because it's just like that front seven to me is so good. And I just like that's what scares me most about this game. It's not even that like, they're good offensively too. I think ASU's defense can keep it close, and I think they're gonna have a much better performance because I really ascribe to the it was so bad against Utah that I think it's gonna fire them up. It's like when Illinois lost to Indiana 63-10 and came out
I
and beat
hope that
USC
it's
the next week,
I
right?
hope that it's
Like
comparable to that. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like because you're everybody, it's not just that you lost, but everybody's saying, "Oh my God, you're frauds and you got
Yeah.
killed and da da da
Yeah.
da and this team stinks and like yada yada yada." And like, then you go out playing like, "All right, well, whatever, like we'll show them." I hope it's something like that, but the thing that worries me is just like, is Texas Tech's defense gonna be too good for some of our offensive skill talent to even matter?
Right. I think Tyson will get his like Tyson's going to produce against anyone.
Right,
We even
right.
saw he was the only guy who scored a touchdown for us in this last game. Um, yeah, I mean, I think Rayleigh Brown will have a decent game. I think they need to pop a big screen pass at some point in this game. They haven't really done that yet. They've come close. Um, I don't know how that's going to material. And then they need I think Mateo will do okay, but they need some whether it's Eusebio. I don't even want to say McLean. I feel like McLean is you can't trust him at this point, or Hamilton, or maybe a Sample Zechariah Sample, who's
Yeah.
I kind of wish we've seen more of him this year. But you're gonna need and like with Kanye Udo's been sick. Maybe it's
Yeah.
Demarius Man Robinson. Maybe he's I don't know. Like there has to be someone else who like steps up or gets featured in a different way or whatever you want to say. Um, because this Texas Tech defense is good, and they also have a really good coordinator. I think his name's Sheil Wood. He was at Houston last year. I want to for sure, but like it's not just that it's not like this is like yeah, Sheil Wood and Houston had a good defense. So like it's not just that they have talent; they have it in the right spots and they're coached well. And that's why they've been so dominant so far. So
Yeah.
um, And the other thing is like like losing Ben Coleman has a trickle down effect, right? Like, so your tackles are still the same with Atkins and Ian Achor, and then you have Kyle Scott at right guard, but then at center it's going to be Wade Helton, who's like a redshirt freshman, and then Obigbo, who played a little bit but was at some point deemed worthy of being taken out of the game.
Yeah,
So
yeah, he hasn't been, I think what you were looking for from a transfer lineman, it's
he's
taken a little bit
huge.
for him to get going.
Yeah,
Like, um, yeah. Can I jump in real quick on something you mentioned?
yeah, sure.
On skill players. I'm really I think the Kyson Brown injury is huge. Because I know he
You think
wasn't
so?
producing like Raleek Brown, but I just think like that switch up that they've had between Raleek, Kyson, and Kanye Udo, to me has been one of like the really, really nice positive points for this offense. Because I think they featured different things and if you keep them fresh, I've really liked that. But now with Kanye sick, with Kyson Brown hurt, like what's that gonna look like? And I just think too, Mark, like I've liked how they've gone to Eusebio more. And I've liked and look like this is not they've tried to get Jaron Hamilton the ball deep. Like they're trying a Jaron Hamilton shot or two every
Well, they
game.
did, and yeah,
And,
TCU they
and
got it from. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And like So they've tried to get him involved. I think he's the type of guy where your whole offense is going to change once you can hit a couple of those balls consistently. Because once it's on film more and defenses see that, the look is going to be a little different here and there. Once I know you have that, but I'm just going to like be completely honest. Like teams have not needed to respect Malik McClain. Like and even when he's had opportunities, like
Yeah.
he's had drops. And I think like that to me has been one of the really disappointing parts of the season is
Yeah.
that last year, even without Tyson, like McLean and everybody else, like Stovall, like they found ways to still keep that
Story.
offense
Yeah.
humming. And a lot of it was like, look, a lot of it was Scatterbo, right? And like
Of
Cam and the
course.
way he like would get you started and would kind of pace an offense. Like I get that. But I think one of the things I'm a little disappointed by is just how much it's felt like, man, if Tyson doesn't get the ball, like we're
Yeah.
not using the wide receivers. And I just think like I think that's like a really big issue. And I felt really good about what they brought in the transfer portal in terms of Jalen Moss, Jaron Hamilton, even like Noble Johnson, who has taken a little bit longer to kind of get going and really get up to speed. Um, and it hasn't made an impact quite yet. But I just think like I expected more from this wide receiver group. I actually felt really good about it, like coming into the year. Whereas last year, it kind of to me, it felt like sometimes it was like, okay, how are we gonna, it was just a
Yeah.
hodgepodge of offense. This year it was like, okay, we'll have some like wide receivers that we can count on after Tyson, and it just like hasn't really been the case. And I think that severely limited this offense because like I think defenses know, look, like
Yeah.
Shimon Mateer has been played a lot tougher than I think he was a year ago. And I think like the running backs have had to find their stride and kind of their mix without Scat. Uh and in the red zone, I just don't like we don't have anybody other than Tyson that really has to be respected by defenses.
Well, let's just. I'm looking at our stats. We ASU as a team has 8 touchdown passes this year, all from Levitt.
Yeah,
7 have gone to Tyson. 1 has gone to Mateer. Like
Mateer.
that
Yeah.
can't. That is not sustainable at all. Um, I think that will change just due to like the natural flow of the game of football, but it may not change against Texas Tech, right? Like so. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Well, and I think Moss he played in against Utah, right? And so
Yeah, so he
so
played against Utah, so he's finally back, which that
yeah,
I'm not
that
sure
could
what
be a
happened there,
that could
but
help.
yeah, and like after being out a few weeks, like we can't just expect him to like immediately have, 8 catches for 80 yards or whatever, whatever you want to throw out there. I think that'll help. But I think just the fact that they haven't had him, um, and really like McLean has been pretty disappointing, unfortunately. It's
Yeah,
I mean, you just read those stats. Dude, if we were doing this before the season and you said that halfway through the year, those would be the passing stats, is there any way we'd only have 2 losses? Like that you'd think we'd only like
yeah,
that? Like, so there's a lot of room to grow here, just like there was last year. Like, there's a lot of the ceiling is far from where this team currently is. That's the good news.
true.
But again, it's you can buy more into that when you're playing Houston or when you're
Yeah, yeah,
playing TCU, where you're playing Baylor. Like this game against Texas Tech, like I'm just gonna be honest, like we have to hope there's a little bit of Texas Tech not having been challenged yet. That maybe if we get them in a close game, it's a little bit different. Like we
yep,
have to hope that they've just kicked the crap out of everybody to the degree that they're due for some letdown somehow.
right. No, I was gonna bring this up. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, look for ASU to win this game or potentially like keep it closer than expected or what. Like for it, Texas Tech needs to help out ASU in that regard as well. Like it can't just be like ASU beats Texas Tech at its best or whatever. Like that's not happening. So now again, ASU's playing at home. The thing like they beat Houston and Kansas by a lot in their last 2 games, but then the fact that they beat the crap out of Utah, like that's what really
Yeah.
scares me. And again, it's transitive property. I get it, but like that's still like is troubling. And they did that to Utah on the road. So I will say, like, I think it's helpful that ASU, um, again, ASU lost to this team last year. No, not this collection of players, but they lost to Texas Tech. I think
Yeah.
that could be helpful for ASU because it's like, okay, we lost to these guys, and now they're even better. I don't know if the target, like you mentioned, target being on ASU's back. Like, I don't know if it is as much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
sure.
not
I
right
don't think
now.
Texas Tech's going to sleepwalk into this game or anything. But I think it's more on Texas Tech right now. Or I don't know. It's evenly so because Texas Tech can still say, "Oh, well, the ASU is still the champions" or whatever. So, however you want to slice it, but yeah, and I guess the thing is, so I'm going to pull up. Okay. So they beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 67-7. They beat Kent State 62-14. Beat Oregon State 45-14, which, as much as we're complaining right now, thank God we are not Oregon State fans because that is a absolute
That's
catastrophe that
that's
I
be a
really
shame
feel
if we knew anyone who was. I mean,
bad.
that's probably having a tough year.
Yeah, totally. But then it's the Utah game that we talked about, and then beating Houston and Kansas by wide margins. What I'll say is, like, it's just hard to blow teams out on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
It just is. That's kind of the one thing that's like that's the glimmer of hope that I'm holding on to, you know. And another thing, so we talked about Baron Morton. I want to pull up his stats because I was comparing him and Hammond against Kansas. So here's what Hammond did: 7 of 16, 42 yards passing and an interception, but then he ran for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now it helps when their other running back ran for 263 and 2 touchdowns. See, like
Ugh.
this, like ASU's run defense, you better come to play. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
try. Um, but like Baron Morton, 7 of 12, 91 yards, a touchdown. Okay, not terrible, but not like you know, absolutely threatening either. And then you look at his game log. So it says 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. Well, let's look at that. Uh, 11 of those touchdown passes, 11 of his 13 touchdown passes came against Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State. He threw 2 picks against Utah, and then he was pretty good against Houston. No, he was good against Houston. 345 yards and a touchdown, 70% completion, and then didn't do much against Kansas. So this goes back to my point. Like we need Baron Morton to play. I don't like maybe it does help if Will Hammond plays and he just like has like a young player moment and turns the ball over a bunch. But like that's asking a lot, you know. Anytime we're like, oh, like maybe they'll turn it over a bunch of times. It's like okay, like
Yeah,
sure,
you don't want to be there.
yeah,
Yeah. I think well the thing is I think Texas Tech obviously gets gets such a
like
big boost off the back of its defense.
yeah. We
And
haven't given up 20 points a
and
game in any game.
yeah, and the scary thing, not to scare the heck out of ASU fans even more, but that Kansas game, like I think Kansas is a good team that just we're not talking about because they lost to a
Right.
good Missouri team. And now it's like they're not really that much of a factor in the Big 12 because of that and because of how good other teams have been.
Yeah,
But
they've lost to
be-
Cincinnati. They've lost to good teams. They've lost to Missouri, Texas Tech, and Cincy, who's pretty good. But they,
exactly. But I remember like that game, dude, that game was like 21-0 immediately. And then Kansas actually like
right.
they actually scored like that could have been a lot worse than the scoreboard looks. And like all I'm like Texas Tech is really, really good, and I think it's clearly a talent advantage. Like clearly, clearly, clearly. Like it's not really close. Like we haven't seen a team this good in the Big 12 since those Oklahoma teams.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and even then, this Texas Tech team has a better defense than those Oklahoma teams
Oh,
ever did
absolutely. Yeah,
Under
absolutely.
Lincoln Riley. And so it's
Yeah.
like this is a Texas Tech. Let's just put it out there. This is a Texas Tech team that had they in the old era of the Big 12 that they were in, like they'd be winning conference titles. Like they probably would have beaten I think good defense travels. They probably would have beaten those Lincoln Riley teams. I
Yeah.
think at least once. to win a conference title. And I just think the thing that scares me about this is the margin for error. Because like you said,
Oh,
when you're looking at okay,
yeah.
maybe they turn it over a couple times. Like when you're already bargaining and rationalizing,
Yes.
that's a tough spot to be in. Um, but I mean, what where we need to see this game first turn is I guess I was most disappointed Saturday that we all knew, everybody in the building and everybody watching knew that Utah is so stubborn about running the ball. Like they were going to try to run the ball. I knew the first I know they threw a passing play on their first play and they started a couple drives with passes to mix things up. But Utah runs the ball and it just seemed like we weren't even ready to stop the run. Like that is the one thing you're going to have to do against Texas Tech. Like that's the
Oh,
one like
absolutely.
if like you have to just be ready. Like these good teams like Utah, Texas Tech, they're stingy and like stubborn about running the ball, and they'll like do it even if it's not working to a certain point. They'll like keep doing it to establish it. And like that's what I think frustrated me most about the loss at Utah was it just seemed like I was kind of sitting there thinking like, were we not ready for this? Like, did we not know
Right.
they were going to do all this? Like, it wasn't rocket science. And I'm not saying it's easy. Utah's a great team. What I am
Yeah.
saying is this ASU defense is really good, and you expect a lot from them. And this, so that's,
But
I think
they're
to
pretty good.
me,
They're pretty good. I wouldn't say
yeah,
real good.
yeah,
They're pretty good. But yes.
yeah. But and even so, like I think the Alfred injury hurts. But the one thing that I forgot to
Boogie
mention when
Wilson
you
has
pulled
done
up the injury
fine.
report
Boogie Wilson
was
has
yes,
stepped in well enough.
and Wilson. I love the way that guy flies up to the ball, like
Yeah. Oh,
from the
yeah.
safety position, and like he hits, and like
Yeah.
he like I think there's been a lot of good on defense that I think these guys look. I think they're gonna come in, and I think they're gonna be like, look, like we got blown out last time. Like there's got to be some. I think there's gonna be a level of pride there,
Oh,
where they
absolutely.
come out strong, but it's got to start with stopping the run. And I think Texas Tech has a severe advantage against us with their defense and our offensive line and our offensive front. I don't think that advantage exists as much with our defense and their offense. So that's the part of the game I think ASU is
Yeah.
going to have to impact.
I agree with you there. And another thing, I don't think we mentioned, we kind of talked around this earlier in the show, but it just seemed, just from reacting to the game and everything, like it seemed like because of how rainy it was and just unpleasant, because of how they knew they weren't playing with Levitt, it it felt like it was one of those games where they just kind of let go of the rope pretty quickly early on because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like we're not coming back. You have some things go against you, like a blocked field goal or whatever, and you just don't play well enough on top of that to even start the game. And so when you add it all up, like I remember there was a video of Jordan Tyson running out in the field, like, oh, I don't like playing in this weather, and like I feel like that stuff kind of like gets like trickles down into the team, and like it's just, and it just all combined for just one terrible performance, and so I don't think that will exist again. But again, it's like, okay, even if all these things reset to their normal level and maybe go your way a little bit, you're just playing a better team, and so
Yeah.
that's why we keep coming back to like the fact that it's just Utah and Texas Tech, like it's just tough. And yeah, so I don't know, but I think we've talked about this game. Well, I mean, I guess one more obvious point: like, we need Sam Levitt to be really good in this game. Like that's pretty much the only way ASU wins this game, barring weird turnover stuff or like a trick play or whatever. Like
Right.
for ASU to win this game in somewhat normal fashion, Sam Levitt needs to probably account for like 3 touchdowns and like zero intercept. Like it can't, like, and maybe he'll be moving around great and he'll look good, and maybe it'll like maybe the decision not to play him will age well, and it'll look like, oh, okay, like like you didn't want to get him injured in that game, and look what paid off. Like he was, playing great against Texas Tech or whatever. And I mean, look, like he played pretty well against Texas last year. So like, and that was without Tyson. Was with it
Yeah.
was with Scadaboo, obviously. I'm not denying that, but I don't know. That's just something to watch. And I mean, Arroyo just needs to have a better game plan. Like he's had some bad game plans in some of these games. There's no way around it. And hopefully, Hamilton being a little bit more comfortable, in his role, and Jalen Moss being back, like hopefully those things make somewhat of a difference. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. One more thing before we wrap up this specific game discussion to move on to some other non things surrounding this game. Do you think? What do you think of the rumors that Levitt injured himself playing basketball?
You know what? When I saw those, I heard one of those like about a week, like right when it happened, somebody like texted me that that was the rumor.
Hmm.
And I was like, I mean, obviously as a fan, you're like, dude, really? But I don't think I ever believed it because I just don't think Stam would be playing basketball to that level during the season. Like, I don't think that would happen. Like, I know they play like, look, they'll play, in the team room or whatever. They'll bring in a
Yeah,
basketball hoop in the meeting room and whatnot. But I I don't buy it. Like, I don't know. I think there's a chance that he maybe just had. I mean, he's a tough SOB, man. So I think there's a chance that he
sure.
actually was hurt in Baylor TCU, like they're saying. And obviously, ASU's transparent. I know they're transparent about injuries. Kenny is. But obviously, if it did happen playing basketball, they would never be transparent about that. So we have to take what
Yeah,
they say with a grain of salt, especially because it's the guy who is gonna want to get drafted after this year and
yeah.
like all that stuff. But it's like I I don't think that happened. I think there's been some water thrown on that one since then. And I think honestly, I think it's more that he just had something lingering. The part I can't get past though, and I'm not saying ASU's lying or anything, I just would be like really curious to know what happened. How did it get worse after a bye week? Because
Yes,
I didn't really notice anything like during the TCU game. And I know Levitt's so tough that maybe you wouldn't notice. Like, I bet he'll be scrambling around this game and like, dude, he's gonna look fine. Like, that's my expectation.
I
But
hope so.
but like, how did it happen that they wouldn't have put him? Like, how did it happen that they put him at probable and then doubtful immediately? Like, and then
Yes,
and then it get worse after a bye week. Like, the math isn't mathing there.
that's the thing. That's why I don't look. I agree with you. Like, I don't think that the basketball reason is why, but it's pretty. Like, I could totally see why someone would believe that because it
Oh,
came out
totally.
of nowhere after a week and a half of being off. And look, you say like, oh, he could have been injured versus TCU. Like, I don't know. When I saw him do like a spin move and like
Yeah,
evade all these people in the midfield, like, I'm sorry, like like that looks pretty freaking healthy to me. And so he played that whole game without any sort of issue, it seemed like. And so I don't know, like I can't I, I don't know. It feels like something we're gonna find out later, like in like 4 or 5 months from now or whatever.
it,
Or like if he
it's
does go into the draft, like it'll come out during that stuff, like at the combine or like whatever it may be. Like I I don't know. And you know what? Maybe like there's a reality that's pretty believable that like every like Levitt could have been totally healthy or offense could have been looking great, all this, and we still go up and lose to Utah. Maybe it wouldn't have looked 42. Like the one thing we have to remember about the Utah game, like it is only one loss. You know,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like one loss. I'll tell you that much. But like our freshman year, remember the UCLA game? This was the
yeah.
first game that Berkovici started after.
How could I forget?
Yeah, first Pac-12 home game for us,
Yeah,
and they just absolutely destroyed ASU. And that was an ASU team that turned out to go 9-3 and had a good year. Some disappointment at the end a little bit with the Oregon State game that shall not be named, and then losing the Territorial Cup. But like ultimately, they won 10 games. Like you can't criticize that season too much. So
no.
this can happen. You mentioned the Illinois game against Indiana. Sometimes it's like a snowball effect. It just gets worse and worse, and the score is what it is. But
James Franklin, like that
yeah,
that like sometimes those things can snowball and it's just you're at the middle of the spectrum of the pendulum, and it's like, which way is it going to go? Like, is
Yeah.
ASU going to come back? Because we're not really going to see against Texas Tech because Texas Tech is so good. But is ASU going to play
Well,
hard?
we
Like that's
could.
honestly that's what you're looking to see is like, is the effort there? Like, are they not beating themselves? Like Texas Tech is such a good team that, yeah,
Yeah.
like people are treating like we've spent a lot of time talking about Utah and Texas Tech that this has still been, I think, a better season than we expected that this season would be like 2 years ago, if that makes sense. Because
Oh, okay,
ASU,
okay.
ASU is like they were ahead of schedule last year, and that's made expectations so high. And Kenny has recognized that. And I think when you lose a game like they did to Utah, yeah, the sky seems like it's falling because you don't have a bounce back against West Virginia or like even like Colorado this
Yeah.
year. Or like, you don't have one of those. And so I think like it feels a lot worse than it is because and like look, let's be honest, we've been pretty concerned about this team since week one, since they didn't blow out NAU in week one. We've been concerned about like, hey, like, does this mean anything? Like, let's hope this doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. Like, let's hope this doesn't turn out to be. But I think like, yeah, there are points in the season, and I think ASU honestly, I think ASU is there right now. I don't think it's going to turn out bad because of Kenny, and I think I like the coaching staff, I like the psyche of the team, but I think there are points in a season where you're at the middle of the pendulum, and it could easily swing like it did for Penn State, like losing to Northwestern. You lose to
Right.
UCLA, then to Northwestern, your coach gets fired. Kenny won't get fired, but what I'm saying is like there are points where it can spiral. I don't think that's the case here, but yeah, I mean,
You never know.
like
Yeah.
let's be honest. Like this is not an easy stretch of games.
No. No. Yeah, that's a good point in terms of like the 2 years ago aspect. Because like, look, like right now, being 4-2, like this is what I would call like normal college football problems, which were
Yeah,
things that we were not experiencing 2, 3 years ago. Those were like beyond worse. Like this is what like North Carolina is going through uh, right now, and like some of these teams. Well, I don't think we ever got as bad as where North Carolina is right now.
I
Herm Edwards,
I don't think so.
you were clearly better a college coach than Bill Belichick. I think
I
there is no like I don't like even if you say how it ended here, like at least Herm Edwards didn't completely throw up on himself the first few years, and it was like this is the North Carolina thing is just anyway, but
You know what's interesting is like we all like to act like we know so much about what's going to happen or about sports.
what sports
That,
media people like to act like they know everything? What do you what?
that
What?
yeah, eye roll. But that was like one situation. Like for example, I was wrong in thinking that Texas Tech wouldn't be this good. I thought they'd be improved. I didn't think they'd be a machine.
No, but very
I,
few
I
people
was
thought they would be this good.
I was completely correct in thinking that the Belichick thing would be a disaster because in the current college football landscape, that's a disaster. Like these kids don't care that you're Bill Belichick or like I don't like that is such a it's just a good example of like, dude, things can go really bad. And like for as bad as the Herm hire was, remember, at the time it wasn't that bad because they started out beating Michigan State in both ends of a home and home. Like it seemed like they were going to be fine.
They were
And then that
okay. They were
2021
solid. Just
team,
yeah,
yeah, and that 2021 team seemed like it had a lot of talent. Then things, the drama and how it ended and the famous dossier that got,
I don't.
that
Yeah,
got released. And I think but all this is to say, like that's why I feel so good about this team. Like ASU's got a great coach that yes is young, but for every one of I want to say this too. Everybody always says, like you see it on the message boards and stuff. Oh, Kenny's not there yet. He's such a young coach. He's still making these mistakes. Guys, everybody makes these mistakes. They just don't go up and say it to the media. Like, so
true.
you're
Yeah,
not hearing about it. You don't notice the mistakes that James Franklin was making on a weekly basis because he's a good coach. Like, he's not going up and saying it to the media. Like, Kyle Whittingham isn't going up and
yeah,
saying it to the media. And I think, like, there's so much like Kenny is so willing to be transparent that people think, oh, we've still got a young coach. He's going to grow with the role. Yeah, he's going to get a lot better, but he's a darn good coach who's put together a really good staff and has the pulse on a locker room as well as you can. to be that inexperienced of a head coach. I think ASU's in a good spot because it's like you've got a guy who understands the landscape. He understands like what this current team is. He's clearly adjusting with what he sees needs to be adjusted with and fine
Yeah.
tuned with this team. And it's funny because like as bad as I felt after Mississippi State, because I was there for that one, it wasn't very fun having the former sorority girls next to me shoving, like ringing cowbells in my face or during that last touchdown where they
Yeah.
won the game with like 30 seconds to go. It was an awful feeling. As bad as we felt after that, as bad as we felt after this last weekend, there are so many bad situations in the country. Or like, look at what's happening to Clemson after all their
Yeah.
success. Like it almost just feels like the way Dabo does things like isn't really sustainable for them anymore. It's just like I feel like at ASU, I feel like we're still on an upward trajectory. I know people hate to hear that like sleeping giant stuff and like the trajectory stuff, but I still think like there's a lot of room to grow here. Like we're getting a new football facility, indoor facility.
Right.
Like we're getting weight room upgrades, and renovations there. Like I really feel good about that's like as we discussed this, Mark, as disgusting as the Utah loss was, and as jealous I am of you not having seen a second of it, it still feels like you can be excited about ASU football because of Kenny and because of like the program's quote unquote culture. Whereas I think like with some programs, there's a level of apathy that gets built, right? Like we're seeing it with ASU basketball. And like
Oh,
football
well,
and
I
basketball are
mean,
completely different realms. But what I'm saying is like I think during the Herm era, during 2021, there was a certain apathy that developed because you just saw the same mistakes happening and the same
well,
things happening. And
with that, the thing with the 2021 season is you knew it was they had to make hay that year. They had to.
yeah,
And going 8-4 with that team that year was a disappointment. And honestly, like that's what's get like that's where I kind of push back a little bit on like, oh, we have the trajectory. It's like, okay, yes, but if we go 8-4, 7-5 this year, like
yeah,
some of that hype can get popped away, you
oh
know.
yeah,
And it's not like we're killing it on the recruiting trail. We're not doing
that,
bad, but
that's what worries me.
we're not doing like great, you know. And maybe I don't some of this like house settlement stuff and it's so hard to keep track of and I feel like it always changes. So maybe some of that like they did pick up like a high 3-star defensive lineman from Oklahoma earlier this week. Thank you, Mike Gundy, for getting fired. So that's good, and they are having a big recruiting weekend this week. So which underscores the importance of just playing a competitive game against Texas Tech. Uh, and I mean, they are recruiting quarterbacks well. You can't deny that. They've got like four-star guys in the fold coming in. But like, the thing is like this year, like Tyson is not going to be back no matter what. Like he's gone. Some like Maxie Ian Hotchinor is going to be gone. Like some of our guys on defense will be gone. Levitt will likely be gone. We don't know. That's still up in the air. But so that's kind of the thing where it's like this year is important and you wanted to have a standout year
Yeah,
because you don't know we have no idea what's coming in the future. We have no idea. And so that's why you can't like I can live with singularly the Mississippi State loss and singularly the Utah loss, but both is tough. And we are lucky that we got 2-0 in the Big 12 to start with Baylor and TCU because that like if you're going to win, two close games and lose one, it's better the way that ASU did it with the two Big 12 wins and then losing at Mississippi State. But then like the Utah game, it just changes how things look. And so, yeah, like I don't know, this is a huge moment for this team. Like that's for sure. There's no doubt around that. Like they need to kind of quell some of the doubts in this game. And that may not even happen in a
yeah.
win. But um yeah, and so that's kind of the thing that's where it's tough. But I will say, like, I don't know. I think our points of like, oh, like Texas Tech, like they're it sucks. I hate being like, oh, they're due to like not play as well, but I mean, I don't know. Like maybe they aren't. Like who knows? Like maybe they just come in and roll us again. Like that's on the table, but I don't know.
Man, I just think like, especially with college, ASU has so much experience over the last 2 years in
Yeah.
close games and one score
Right.
games. And if I'm Kenny Dillingham, like, yeah, you're not saying like, hey, let's like keep this close, guys. Like, no, like you think
No.
you could win. But the
Yeah.
point being is like, yeah, you're definitely telling guys like, look, guys, like if this game is close late, guess who's won all these close games over the last year and a half? Like, guess and like
Yeah.
if you get them in a close game, like see how they react. They've blown every team out. Like they haven't really been in a situation late in the fourth quarter where they could conceivably have lost. And like that's huge, especially with ASU being at home and Texas Tech being on the road, and hopefully like the crowd is good. Um, we'll be a part of it. I just think I think there's a lot to that. It's like when you like what happened to Oregon last year, right? Like it's like when you go into the playoff or something, when you go into playing your best competition when
Yeah.
you're undefeated, you don't get the opportunity to learn from a loss. And I
There's
think like
something.
learning there's something to that. Learning from losses. It's like, dude, you could look at the Patriots of years ago, like, and it's just like there. It's hard to
The
go. It's
Chiefs right
hard to
now.
not
Yeah.
have. Yeah, it's hard to not have any experience with like losing or like playing close games. Like the
Yeah.
best teams, like everybody crapped on TCU the other year because it's like, oh, they had this fluke run to the playoff. They won like 8 straight one score games. Well, like they won them, not
Yeah.
lost them. So
Yeah.
it's like there's something to be said for that. And I think that's the key to this game. Like if I'm as an ASU fan, I want to see this be a one score game going into the fourth quarter. Like either like if it's
That'd be
if
great.
we're up, I'd like to see it be a 4 score game going into the
Well, yeah,
fourth quarter.
yeah,
But
of course. Yeah.
but if I just think like, yeah, you want to see how a team reacts, right? Like it's we say it all the time in basketball, like, especially in the NCAA tournament. Like, yeah, you want to see how a team reacts when they've been blowing everybody out, and
Yeah.
finally, like, oh, they've got to, in crunch time, like those guys who could take a breather have to play every snap, or those guys, like they've got to make all these plays. Like, I think there's something to be said for that. And I do agree with your point about like, I do think, look, like it's okay, and I believe this. If we went 8-4, I'd be disappointed, and like that's okay because after the year they had last year, all the talent they have this year, like we keep saying, this is where I
Who
don't
they brought
like.
back? Yeah.
Yes, and this is where I don't like some of the disenfranchising of fans because yes, I think it was going to be tough to go 11-1. Like that's always tough, but it's like especially with a hard schedule, like we've had a difficult schedule, but you go to the playoff last year. You bring back all these guys. All you've been asking for, and I'm not even saying this at like Kenny or anybody specifically. I'm just saying like the point in general.
Yeah.
All anybody in that building has been asking for is for people to care. And now they care. Like they come
Oh
out
yeah.
to the games, like they're sellouts, like they're creating a
People
good
care.
atmosphere at the home games.
Yeah.
The people have high expectations. Like that's what you should want. And I know Kenny has acknowledged that, but I think that's why it's okay to be like, yeah, like obviously if they go 8-4, the balloon will have been popped. Like that stinks. I'm just gonna say it. Like that's a possibility, but it kind of stinks because especially because it's one thing if Levitt gets hurt the first game and you don't have Tyson for most whatever. But it's like with all the talent they've had, yeah, you wanted to see them take a step upon what they did last year, and that's
Well, at least
all Kenny's.
maintain.
Yeah, and that's
That's
all
the
Kenny
thing.
was
Yeah.
talking about to the team all summer because they knew that. They knew it's like, okay, it's not whether you can have success, it's whether you can sustain it.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing to do. And if even if they go 8-4 this year, it doesn't mean they won't get to the playoff next year. Doesn't mean they won't the year after that.
Right.
Like
Right. Right.
I still like where the program's headed, but yeah, it's like let's like be it's okay for people to have as high of expectations as they do. No, the season is not over right now. I think people are overreacting to a bad Utah loss. I think this is a very good team. But yeah, like people expect a lot, and that's okay because they were shown a lot last year and we brought a lot back.
Yes, and also like this is something that's so. key to me in sports in general. It's not like it was only ASU diehards who were expecting this team to be pretty good this year. Okay, a lot of the like the pre NFL draft stuff. Like there was an article on ESPN that had like ASU potentially having 10 guys drafted. I don't think that's going to happen now. Like I don't think there are 10. There might be 6 guys, which would still be awesome. But like that's the other thing. Like I don't know. It's not like that. It's not like this was just pulled out of thin air. All this hype, like that's the thing that kind of yeah, but like I don't think that like Dillingham is straying away from it, but I did kind of get annoyed with his quote this week. He was like, "Oh, like 2 years ago they'd be happy if we were 4-2 and now people are annoyed that we're 4-2." It's like, "Well, yeah, you're 4-2 if you keep going for like if that's on pace to go 8-4." And I understand like the overall lot in life that ASU is as a program.
Right.
Like it's a mid-level program. We're in the Big 12 at this point in time. We're a mid-level program, but and that's why it would be like if ASU goes 8-4 next year with a new quarterback, no Tyson, a bunch of other guys who had left, graduated, got whatever. Like that's a whole different. That's better than doing it this year when you have all these guys.
Right.
And so that's kind of the thing that like, yeah, I don't know, and it's gonna be tough to avoid it because like you just I don't know. I mean, do you want to give our Texas Tech predictions? I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
I have ASU 20, Texas Tech 31. I think
Ooh.
I think their defense will. I think ASU's defense will step up, and I think some of that 31 points that Tech gets to is due to like short fields, missed fourth downs, or whatever. So that's what I think.
I'm gonna go ASU 27, Texas Tech 23. I think
Okay,
they do it. I think that because
I hope you're
I
right.
think Texas Tech, you have to lose at some point. They're not gonna go undefeated. I don't think they will. And I think they not that they haven't played in a tough road environment, but they haven't played close games. And I think that kind of matters because they've played at Utah, but that was at,
Yeah.
let's remember, and I'm not lessening their win there. They played Utah at 10 a.m. Utah time. They didn't play Utah at
Well,
7
it was
p.m.
11 a.m.
Like
Utah time,
or
but
yeah, 11
yeah,
a.m. But the
or
point
maybe well, no,
being,
no, no, it was 10 a.m.
no, it
Utah
was
time.
10
So it was
a.m.
9.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Okay,
Uh
that's yeah,
but
that's fair.
but yeah, it's like one of those things where yeah, it's not like they beat them 33-10 at night there. It's like, and I'm not lessening like the impact of it or the impressiveness, but I'm just saying like this is a team that's played in a lot of blowouts and they've just been really a lot more talented and better and more physical than everybody they've played. So like give them a run for it. See what happens if it's a close
Yeah,
game, and I think they might get it done.
I hope you're right. I do not. I, I I don't know. I think we can come out of this game if they lose in a certain way, looking at and being like, okay, like I think that I think that is a reality, Especially look if Sam Levitt plays really well and we lose, then I'm not saying I would take that, but that's not the worst outcome.
Well, sometimes you got to tip your cap. Like if we play
Oh,
a great
yeah,
game and they still win, like okay, they're better than us on paper anyways. Like you tip your
yeah,
cap.
for sure. All right. Do you want to? You mentioned the facilities stuff. Do you want to get into that? That came out uh 2 weeks ago now. Any thoughts on that? I mean, the only issue I have is it feels like it's the construction is going to take a little bit longer than you might like, but also I'm not a logistics construction person, so I don't know what the normal timeline would be, or so and then I like yeah, just some of that.
Yeah, well, I like football specifically. I know they're going to be doing stuff with basketball. That's a welcome addition because when they
Well,
added
yeah.
hockey, I remember thinking just from a business standpoint, like hockey gets a new arena over basketball, and I can't imagine like Bobby would have been too happy with that, because it's got to be hard to recruit to Desert Financial. What I will say, like, if we let's just stick to football though, uh, a much more pleasant conversation. Uh, the the new indoor facility that they're going to be getting, like the weight room renovations. First of all, it's crazy with the arms race in college football that this facility opened in 2017, and we're already 8 years down the road. And in
It's
8 years,
stupid. It's
yeah,
stupid. I'm sorry.
it's
It's so stupid. I know that you have to do it. I'm not like but it's stupid.
I know it's dumb, but like here's what I think is I think it's going to help them in recruiting, like to keep pace. Like they're never going to have like Texas Tech student facility. Like have you seen that? Like they're never going to have like Clemson's or Alabama's. But what I think what we and you mentioned this with recruiting, what we need to keep in mind is I think ASU is dumping a lot more resources into its like program and not its players. And what I mean by that is like the players making the money or the players who have been there, they're not going to be paying these bags to like high school kids. I think they're focusing on retention more than
Yeah,
like, and Kenny said that retention is more important than high school recruiting. And I think that's true because I think you have to have some sort of system, right? Like Texas Tech isn't going to be able to pay these guys next year because of like the clearinghouse thing. Like that was a one-time thing only, I believe, where you can spend that much because all this stuff you're not going to be able to have boosters just be like, all right, here's 50 million for your roster. Like here, like you're going to have to put it through the clearinghouse. But I think so. I think ASU is going to be set up well. Uh, but I do wonder, like, look, are they going to be able to? I hate the facilities arms race and all that stuff and the recruiting arms race. But I do think that they're going to be making worthwhile investments into the program. And I think I kind of trust Kenny to know, like, what needs to be done more so than I trusted, like, Herm or Graham. I think I trust Kenny's, like, knowledge of kind of the curve of college athletics and
yeah,
where it is. And I think so I think it's good from that regard. And really like uh I just want to say too that for as much as you and I publicly and privately like we're not happy with the last administration at Sun Devil Athletics, just the end of how it ended. Graham Rossini seems like he's done a great job. Like he seems like he's a really great businessman with like actual like ideas and like logistical sense of like how to get them done and how to do
yeah,
things well and efficiently and like that's what makes me feel really good about this. Like as we talk about all this stuff, like I feel like not only has the game day experience gotten better, but it's things about like getting like the renovations going or like that new facility like football indoor facility or like I just think there's like things that are big that are going to be like big quality of life things with the program that and we've got like really good leadership in place. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen, but I absolutely utterly despise the oh now we like remember when it was big and like 2015 when like Alabama had like napping pods in
the
their
waterfall in the locker
the water
room.
yeah like oh they've got Xboxes in the players lounge or whatever like it's just like event like it matters for sure but it's like eventually I also think there's a thing of like I won't get on kids like dude if you or I were in that spot we'd want to go to Clemson or Bama too like those things would be sweet but you also want kids who like you want a certain type of athlete and I think
Yeah,
you want a certain type of person and you don't want the person that's only attracted to all those flashy things like you want them there for the right reasons and I think ASU with Kenny has a good balance of kind of knowing what they want.
yeah, I agree in yeah for the most part with that. And Graham, like Rossini, like look, there's he still hasn't made have. Although I'll say that the Molly Miller hire, I think that's a really big coup because uh,
Yeah,
two SEC schools wanted her. So there's and she like even though she was at GCU, she's not from Arizona. So that was a big get. And then another thing with Graham is he's clearly like gotten all the boosters back in the fold, which you need to do. We're not a school where we can just like afford to have like some of these boosters not involved. Like you need all hands on deck.
yeah,
Um, what I disagree with a little bit is like this idea that like we need to be playing the recruiting game more in terms of giving money to kids, in my opinion. Like I don't know. Like I think that's just an old mindset of oh, like because other schools will do it. And like look, like you can say like oh, like it's about getting the right guys. Like does Texas Tech have the right guys? No, they just have the most talented guys all over the place, you know?
totally. Yeah,
And so like that's kind of where I don't but I say that like we don't know exactly how it's all going to play out in terms of how like the house distribution and like clearing like all this stuff. We don't know exactly how like that's going to play out in the future, you know. But like I, I just don't like this idea of like, oh, like we're gonna do it like the old school way. It's like, no, like I don't know, like I and telling them, oh, well, if you do this, you can make so and so your sophomore year if you have 500 yards rushing or whatever. Like I don't know. I guess we'll see how that plays out. But I don't totally love that. Um, but I do think like there is value in getting the people who really want to be here. Like I do think that I'm not going to push back against that facet of it, but I don't know. It's just tough. Like there's so many different changes, and like they're having some high profile guys in this week, and if some of those guys commit, then okay, maybe it is working. So
But
um, yeah. And then what do you think about the London game next year?
I hate that stuff, like just personally, but like I mean, it's cool, right? Because like like the student athletes get a chance to go to London. It's
Yeah,
freaking awesome. And like, let's be honest, for as bad as some of that stuff can be, like the Ireland game at the beginning of the year, week 0, ASU is going to get a bye after this. So like
that's see,
to me, I don't know how they did it, but Graham and whoever worked on this nailed it because one, they get a bye after, and two, it doesn't count as one of their home games.
right,
It's KU's home game. So I
right,
think honestly, if you're gonna do it, this is the best circumstance. Like usually I would hate international games because we've seen teams spiral after losing
yeah.
them and it's hard to get back on track. But honestly, like I think this one's a pretty good situation. And if you can, I mean, we've seen I don't know how much it matters with college football compared to like the NFL, but like you've seen, like I don't know, there's like a Mariners fan in like Ireland maybe on Twitter or something like that. Like if you could just get random fans, like it just extends your brand, is what I'm saying. So like
Yeah.
there's no bad that can come from it, and it's going to be a good experience for like the kids and stuff. Uh, so I like it. Like I'm fine with it, especially because they nailed those two things of like a bye after it and it not being an ASU home game is freaking huge.
No, you're dead on with the buy aspect because that makes it much more palatable. And then I think they might play like Hawaii at home after that because they're playing Texas A&M before. So when you like, then you have a bye, and then you ease kind of back into your schedule with a lower tier opponent. Like that's a good way to like overcome the jet lag because that's obviously a huge issue. So yeah, I think that's a good, well said point there. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
we wrapped everything up. Any other thoughts you have as we enter this game?
Go Devils. That's
All
all.
right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, go Devils.